Drums echo through Obanla, their rhythm rising like thunder across the red earth. The air hums with joy as voices blend in song. Feet stamp, hands clap. The drums call louder, carrying the news. Love has found a home. Elders lift their hands toward the sky, blessing the union that has brought laughter back to the village. May this bond be strong as iron and soft as silk, they chant. The people cheer. Music swells. Laughter rolls like a river. From the crowd steps a woman in white, her steps slow, her head bowed. She glows beneath the sun like morning dew on yam leaves. Whispers follow her like wind through the grass. She walks with the grace of the gods, someone says. May her womb bring many sons, another adds. The drummers quicken their beat. A cheer rises. The bride's eyes lift, calm and bright as the first rain. Joy shines around her like light from a hidden fire. The man beside her smiles with pride. This is the day my heart dreamed of, his eyes seem to say. This is the day heaven smiles on me. But not every smile is pure. In the crowd, an older woman watches with still eyes. Her lips move only slightly. Beauty can hide mysteries, she murmurs. Even rivers that shine can drown a man. Her words slip into the wind, unheard but heavy, like a stone dropped into deep water. The feast begins. Plates clatter, calabashes overflow. The griot sings their names into the night sky. A union made by heaven. The people cry. They dance until dust rises, their joy shaking the earth itself. May their love never break, someone shouts. May their home be filled with laughter. The cheers thunder on. Yet behind the noise a quiet truth waits. Heaven's gifts often come wrapped in storms. The night deepens. Drums fade. Fires dim. Inside their small room, candles flicker low. The air grows still, thick with the breath of new beginnings. Hands meet. Hearts race. The promise of forever hangs between them, then silence. A soft gasp. A trembling hand. Something shifts. Something unseen but powerful, as if the gods themselves pause to watch. Outside, the last drumbeat fades into the distance. A dog barks once, then quiets. In that stillness, a secret begins to stir, a secret that will turn love into legend. The night that began with laughter now trembled under the weight of silence. Hands once joined in joy now shook in fear. The bride's breath grew shallow. Her skin turned cold like the river at dawn. Whispers of prayers broke through the darkness. A trembling voice begged the heavens to remember mercy. Then came the cry, sharp, sudden, and full of confusion. The groom froze. His heart raced like drums gone wild. The woman in his arms grew heavy. Her lips parted, whispering words too faint to hold. The joy of the night turned to dread. Help! She gasped, her voice fading into the shadows. He shouted for help, for water, for anyone who still believed the night could be saved. From outside came running feet. The drums that had sung of love and blessing stopped mid-beat, the door filled with faces. Women carrying lamps, their eyes wide with fear. Men gathered in hushed tones, unsure if to step closer or back away. What happened to the new bride? Someone asked. Another voice trembled. It must be evil spirits. Others crossed their hearts, afraid to look too long. Fear swept through the house like wind through dry grass. An old healer pushed through the crowd, her steps slow but firm. She carried a gourd of water and cowrie shells tied around her wrists. She knelt beside the still bride, placed her palm gently upon her stomach, and listened with her soul. Her brow tightened. She muttered words older than time, calling on ancestors to show what the eyes could not see. When she looked up, the room fell quiet. Her voice came low and certain. Some things cannot be seen, only felt. She turned her gaze to the husband. He stood there, pale and shaking, unsure if the night was ending or just beginning. By dawn, the air in Obanla was heavy with talk. From one hut to another, the story spread faster than the morning sun. The bride fainted before she was touched. Her body is not like other women. The gods are angry, men whispered behind their palms. Women drew their wrappers tighter and shook their heads. Children stared wide-eyed at their mothers, asking what curse could strike a woman on her wedding night. The husband's proud face turned to stone. His silence spoke louder than all the whispers. The world that once danced for him now stared in pity. When night returned, he sat alone beside her sleeping form. Her chest rose and fell, faint but steady. The moonlight brushed her face, calm yet distant. His thoughts screamed louder than the crickets. How can a woman be pure and whole, yet broken inside? The storyteller's voice deepened, carrying the lesson through the smoke of the fire. And that, my children, is how the tale began. A marriage blessed by men, but questioned by fate. For sometimes the river that looks calm above hides a storm below, and not every blessing dances in the light. The sun had not yet grown old when a widow held her only child close and whispered stories of courage. Her voice carried both love and warning. "A woman's peace lives in her heart, not her gold," she always said. The girl listened with wide eyes, never knowing her mother's words came from wounds the world could not see. The man who once promised forever had left her with silence, dust, and a child who became her only jewel. The widow worked until her hands trembled, weaving mats and mending baskets. Each coin she earned carried a prayer. The neighbors often said, "Her husband's spirit guards her still." She only smiled, hiding tears that never stopped burning. Her child, soft-spoken and graceful, became the song that filled her empty nights. From market to mosque, the young girl moved with calm grace. The old women watched her and whispered blessings. "She is the child who never shouts." Her kindness touched all hearts. She fetched water for elders, shared food with children, and prayed before the first bird sang. Though she spoke little, her silence was never empty. It carried hope, patience, and faith. When the night sky opened wide, she often looked up and dreamed. "One day," she thought, "these hands will hold a child of my own." She did not know that fate already shaped her path with invisible threads. One evening, the mother called her daughter under the mango tree where the earth still smelled of rain. She held her hands, her eyes heavy with both love and fear. "When a man comes for you," she said softly, "let love lead, not pride. Pride builds walls, but love builds homes." The girl nodded, believing her mother's words were blessings, not warnings. The wind passed between them, as if carrying those words to destiny itself. Far away in Obanla, where dust mixed with coins and laughter, a young trader counted his wealth, but found no joy in it. He had seen many faces smile for gold, but none for truth. One evening he told his friend, "I want a wife with truth in her eyes, not coins in her hands." His friend laughed. "Then you will go hungry, my brother, for truth does not sell in the market." But the trader's heart was restless, longing for something money could not buy. When the festival moon rose over the village, drums spoke to the stars and laughter filled the air. The trader walked through the crowd, a stranger among joy. Then he saw her, the girl who moved like peace itself. She served food to elders with quiet grace, her eyes lowered, her steps sure. His heart stopped for a moment. "She moves like peace," he whispered. His friend chuckled. "Then peace will drain your pockets." But he could not look away. The storyteller's voice slowed, heavy with the weight of unseen fate. And so it began. The meeting written before birth. Between a man who sought truth and a woman who carried silence like a crown. For when peace meets longing, even the gods hold their breath. When the young man told his mother that he would marry the quiet girl from the village, her smile did not reach her eyes. Her voice was calm but heavy. "She's poor. Love does not feed a home." He looked at her, steady and sure. "Then I will feed it with my own hands." The old woman sighed, shaking her head. "Hands grow tired, my son, but hunger never sleeps." Yet his heart was louder than her fears. He believed love could fill any emptiness. He began to visit the small home often, carrying no gifts but laughter. He spoke of his work, of his dreams, and the future he wanted to build. The mother listened from her corner, her eyes sharp with questions. "Can you handle a woman with scars you cannot see?" she asked one day. He smiled, thinking she was teasing. "If love is blind," he said, "then I will learn to walk without eyes." The mother looked away. Some truths she knew were not meant to be tested by youth. The courtship grew gentle, filled with quiet joy. The villagers admired them, a humble girl and a wealthy trader who came not for pride but for peace. When the wedding day came, the whole town gathered. Drums thundered, children danced, elders spoke blessings. The girl stood wrapped in white, her head bowed like a morning flower. "She is pure like morning dew," said one old woman. But another whispered, "Morning dew can vanish before noon." The day passed in songs and laughter, yet even in the noise fate watched silently. That night, as the fires burned low, two old women sat near the dying flames. "They say her mother once offended a healer," one murmured. Said the other, "a curse like that never sleeps. It walks through blood, quiet but sure." Their words floated into the dark like ashes on wind. The days that followed were sweet and calm. The young couple lived like a story told by moonlight, soft laughter, shared meals, simple joy. He told her, "You are my peace." She smiled, gentle and bright, but sometimes her eyes drifted far away, as if listening to a whisper that no one else could hear. The storyteller's voice lowers, warning in its rhythm, and so the days of joy grew like flowers before the storm. For even peace, my children, sometimes carries thunder in its shadow. The nights grew longer, and the birds that once sang near their home fell silent. Even the wind seemed to whisper slower. The mother began to visit often, carrying small gourds of herbs and prayers wrapped in white cloth. She would mutter words under her breath, touching her daughter's forehead with trembling hands. The young man laughed lightly, trying to chase away the unease. "Your mother treats us like a sick house," he said. But her answer was quiet, almost lost in the air. "Some sicknesses hide until the rain comes." The words clung to him, though he did not understand them. The days moved like shadows slipping across the earth. The storyteller's voice deepened, steady and wise, and so love danced with silence. The man smiled at the moon, not knowing it watched his tears in waiting. For even in peace, destiny sharpens its knife. Weeks after the wedding, the silence finally broke. She had been grinding millet when her hands froze mid-motion. Her body swayed, and before anyone could shout, she was on the ground. Neighbors ran, shouting for help. "Your wife is down," they cried. He rushed in, his heart pounding. "Again? What is this sickness that hides from medicine?" But her eyes did not open. Her breath came weak, shallow, fading like a candle fighting wind. The next morning carried more than fear. It carried truth. At the town clinic, a young man in a white coat frowned at the paper before him. He spoke slowly, as if choosing words too heavy to lift. "Sir, your wife was born without a womb." The words fell like stones. "Without what?" came the broken reply. The doctor sighed. "She can never carry a child." The storyteller's voice returned, soft but cutting. And so the seed of sorrow was planted. For what is love when the ground that should bear fruit turns to dust beneath the rain? The road home felt long and heavy. Not a word passed between them. The air carried more weight than words ever could. When the door closed behind them, it did not close quietly. The sound broke the silence like thunder tearing the sky. "You tricked me," came the voice, sharp and wounded. "You knew." "I swear, I didn't know." The words came soft, trembling like dry leaves in wind. Tears ran freely, but none could wash away what had been spoken. The silence after that felt sharper than the cry before it. Morning came with footsteps of anger. The door flew open and a storm of words filled the house. "What kind of woman cannot give fruit to her husband?" "She is cursed!" "Send her back before her shadow ruins this home." The man said nothing. His head hung low. Love pulled him one way, shame the other. The voice of his mother rose again, loud as a bell calling for judgment. The house that once knew laughter now echoed only pain. Later, the woman knelt on the floor before the elder who had raised her. "Mother, tell them." "I never knew." The elder sighed, her eyes full of storms long past. "Child, I warned you. Some things are written in silence. You cannot fight what the heavens have already tied." The woman reached forward, begging for mercy that could not be given. The man turned away, his feet heavy with confusion, his heart split between pity and pride. He walked into the distance, leaving behind a silence that begged to be broken. At the stream, laughter carried through the air. "They say she is not truly a woman," one voice whispered. "Her husband will marry again soon," another added. The sound of washing hands in water could not hide their words. Each laugh felt like a stone thrown into her chest. She bowed her head and kept scrubbing, letting the cold water hide her tears. Days turned into nights, and hope turned into a shadow. She went to the first healer, then another, and then another still. Bitter herbs burned her tongue. Prayers burned her throat. Red threads cut her wrists as she tied them tight. One for each night she begged the stars to change her fate. But every healer said the same words. Slow and sure like rain that would not stop. Her womb was sealed before birth. It is not sickness. It is destiny. And so she walked home again under a quiet sky, carrying no child, no cure, only the echo of a truth she could no longer fight. The road behind her was dust. The road ahead was silence. Evening came with the color of dying fire. She walked by the river, her heart heavy like a stone that refused to sink. There on the bank sat an old woman dressed in white. The water behind her glowed faintly, as if it knew her name. Without being asked, the woman spoke. Some wombs are taken so others may live. Fear crawled up her spine. Who are you? The old woman smiled, her eyes deep like night itself. A messenger of balance. Then, as quietly as she had appeared, she was gone. Only the whisper of the river remained, and it seemed to sing of things no human should know. Days passed, but her mind would not rest. She carried the words like a curse, wondering who had borrowed her womb, who had stolen her chance at joy. The man beside her changed too. He stopped lying close at night. His mat grew colder each evening. His eyes searched for everything but her face. Meals were eaten in silence. Even the sound of his footsteps began to fade. Do you still love me? She asked one night, her voice breaking like dry wood. He looked away. Love doesn't fill an empty cradle. The words cut deeper than a blade. She turned away before the tears could betray her. The house no longer felt like home. Soon the elders gathered. The air thickened with talk of legacy. A man's name dies without children, said one. Do not let pity blind you. Another nodded. Even kings take more wives to keep their blood alive. The man lowered his head. His silence gave birth to a decision before his lips ever spoke it. Days later, the drums returned to the city. Not for joy, but duty. A wedding without smiles, without warmth. The man stood beside a younger woman, telling himself, this one will bring me a son. Back in the village, the market buzzed with whispers sharper than knives. Did you hear? He has taken another bride. The words floated through the air until they reached her stall. Her hands froze. The basket slipped from her fingers. Yams rolled across the dust, but she did not bend to pick them up. Her eyes stared into nothing. No scream, no tears. Only silence, heavy like rain before a storm that would not end. Night carried the sound of endings. She folded her few clothes into a small bag, her hands shaking but steady. The beads of her wedding lay on the table, still shining with the memory of love. She touched them gently, whispering, May peace find you, Tunda. Her voice broke like thin glass, but she did not look back. The door closed behind her with the weight of final goodbyes. Into the darkness she walked, barefoot and brave, leaving behind the only home her heart had ever known. The elder's voice rose again, calm like an old river. When a heart breaks in silence, the earth listens. When a woman walks away with grace, even spirits bow. The tale paused then, the drums softened, for what was to come would test the soul of a man and the mercy of fate. The sun rose on celebration. The women sang with joy, a child is coming. The new wife glowed like morning light, her belly full of promise. The man smiled faintly, the corners of his mouth unsure whether to rise or fall. The village clapped their hands, saying, At last your name will live. Praise filled the air, but his heart beat with a quiet sorrow that no song could drown. While the drums echoed through the village, silence lived elsewhere. No one knew where the first wife had gone. She left before dawn, someone whispered. Maybe she went home to her mother. But her mother only shook her head. No, my child walks the wind now. The words hung heavy, like truth wrapped in mystery. Then came the night of the cry. The new wife's screams cut through the air like thunder. The man's voice trembled. Hold on, my wife! Sweat poured down his face as the midwife's hands worked fast, fear growing in her eyes. The air thickened with prayers, with shouts, with trembling hope. Then, silence. The midwife's hands froze. The drums stopped. No baby cried. The night swallowed every sound, leaving only the echo of a curse that had never been spoken aloud. Somewhere far away, under the same moon, a woman walked alone, her tears falling for the child that would never breathe. The small bundle lay still, the midwife's hands trembling as she covered it with a cloth. "It is gone," she whispered, and the words struck harder than any spear. Knees hit the floor, heart breaking in silent fury, and outside, the drums that had sung of joy now roared with the cries of mourning. Shadows seemed heavier, and even the wind carried grief, as if it knew a life had vanished before it began. Days passed like stone. The new mother awoke weak and shaking, voice barely a whisper. "She comes every night," she murmured, eyes wide with fear. Questions tumbled in the air, desperate and unanswered. "Who?" came the reply, trembling but searching. "Amina," the voice quivered. "She stands by the window, smiling, holding our child." The words clawed at every hope, turning joy into dread. The family gathered, faces pale, hands clutching whatever comfort could be found. "Her spirit is angry," someone cried, and the fear passed from mouth to mouth like wildfire. Silence fell only for the older voice to speak. "It is punishment. A woman wronged never sleeps in peace." The truth hung heavy, and guilt sank deep, folding the heart in upon itself. "What have I done?" rang out, a question without comfort. Guilt became motion. Steps carried across familiar roads, yet every footfall felt foreign. At the old compound, an elder waited, eyes heavy with centuries of knowing. A deep sigh spoke before words could form. "You come too late, my son." Kneeling brought no relief, only the weight of truth pressing forward. "Tell me the truth, who was she really?" came the plea, raw and aching. The answer fell slowly like rain over dry earth. "She was born lifeless," came the trembling voice, yet strength underlay every syllable. "The spirit said she would live only if her womb was sealed, her life for life." Breath caught, disbelief rising with the tide. "So she gave up motherhood to breathe?" The nod that followed carried both sorrow and reverence. Her body carried no child, but her soul carried many. Silence followed, sacred and heavy, leaving the weight of sacrifice to linger in every beating heart. Night falls heavy, and a lone figure sleeps beneath the spreading branches of a tree. Dreams rise like mist, and in that dream, she walks through a glowing garden. Children circle her, laughter spilling into the air as tiny hands reach for hers. Her smile is gentle, and her voice, soft as wind through leaves, whispers, "Not every mother carries life in her belly. Some carry it in their hearts." Light bends around her, warm and steady, yet a shadow of sorrow lingers at the edges, reminding that love and loss often walk together. Eyes snap open. Dust clings to the skin, and tears carve tracks down a face weathered by guilt and longing. Feet pound the dry earth, arms reaching for nothing, voice cracking with desperation. "Amina! Amina!" echoes across the fields, startling birds into flight. Villagers peek from doorways, shaking heads at the man who runs like the wind, chasing a shadow that feels more alive than the world itself. He finds a small home, quiet and worn with care, where the woman who tends the lost and lonely waits. Her words fall softly, carrying both truth and grief. She was here. She fed the hungry, healed the sick. Then one morning she didn't wake. Knees hit the ground, chest heaving, eyes staring at the empty mat where life once glimmered. Silence presses down, thick as clay, but then a wind stirs through the trees. A faint voice drifts on it. "Forgive yourself. My journey is done." Eyes close, tears mingle with dust and dawn light, and a whisper breaks through, trembling but steady. "And mine begins anew." The elder's voice threads through the night. A final reminder and a blessing. Some women are chosen to birth kindness, not children. Some hearts become homes for souls the world cannot see. The night holds its breath. All around, the earth listens, and only the wind answers, carrying the story forward in silence, sacred and unbroken. Morning spills gently across the empty compound, dust dancing in the light. Silence fills the air, broken only by faint laughter carried from the nearby children, the orphans she once loved. He stands still, chest heavy, eyes fixed on the hut that holds 1,000 memories. Fingers brush the air as if trying to touch a ghost. "If love could call you back, you'd be here," he whispers, voice trembling with the weight of years. Every step forward feels like a promise and a punishment, yet he breathes in the quiet, letting it harden resolve in his chest. Kneeling by the river where prayers once wove through the water, hands clutching handfuls of bright flowers, he lets them fall, petals drifting downstream like small lights in the current. "I could not give you life," he murmurs, lips barely moving, "but I will give your children a home." The river seems to nod, carrying his vow as far as it can, and he rises with purpose, shoulders squared against memory and sorrow. Stones are set, one after another, walls beginning to rise with trembling hands and steady determination. Curious eyes watch, whispers floating in the air. "What is he building?" one voice asks. "A home for hope," he answers softly. "Amina's home of light, for every child she left behind." Barefoot feet run, small hands clapping, eyes bright with joy and recognition. "Papa, the roof is ready!" they shout, voices weaving laughter into the air. Dust clings to his worn skin, but his heart lifts for the first time in years, a smile breaking through grief. "Your mother's dream lives," he tells them, and the children laugh, echoing a life once lost but now reborn. Market whispers follow like shadows, old women shaking heads with cautious reverence. "Isn't that the woman they called cursed?" one says. "Cursed? No, blessed. She gave more life than any of us," answers another. Even in absence, her name carries weight, respect, and the quiet power of a heart that never stopped giving. The chief arrives, staff in hand, walking with elders whose steps echo wisdom and authority. They move through the new school, eyes scanning bright walls and polished floors, where laughter now fills the halls instead of emptiness. "Her light has not faded," the chief declares, voice strong and steady. He raises his staff high, and the sound of wood striking stone carries weight. "Let this place forever bear her name." Villagers nod, pride and reverence mixing in their gazes, as if the very air remembers her spirit. One evening, a woman watches the children sing, shadowed in the doorway. She turns to the man who built hope from grief. "You still love her?" His voice is quiet but certain. "Yes, but not as before. Now it's through them." She nods, acceptance in her eyes, and without another word, steps into the night, footsteps fading like the end of a storm. Beneath the moon, he kneels in silent prayer. "Forgive me, Amina. Forgive the fool I was." The wind stirs softly, carrying the scent of wild lilies. For the first time in years, peace rests on his shoulders. Outside, a small tree planted long ago bursts into bloom despite the dry season. Children dance around it, voices ringing her name, and an elder smiles knowingly. "Only the pure make nature sing in drought." Days later, the man watches as his business thrives again, traders speaking in hushed awe. The spirit of kindness brings wealth faster than gold. He smiles, understanding at last that forgiveness is the greatest fortune of all. The village gathers each year, lanterns bobbing gently on the river, reflecting sparks of hope in every ripple. Songs rise into the night, carrying laughter, prayers, and memories alike. Children run between the glow, voices high and bright, asking, "Who was Amina?" The teacher bends low, eyes full of reverence, and whispers, "The mother who gave birth to love." Elders nod, remembering a woman who held more in her heart than any womb could contain, and villagers join hands, letting the lanterns drift as a promise that her spirit lives in every child's smile. As the fire burns low, the storyteller lifts a hand, voice soft yet steady, reaching every ear around the circle. Some wombs carry children, others carry nations. Her name will never die, for love does not rest in the grave. Silence holds the night, broken only by the crackle of embers and the distant hum of the river. Children huddle close, hearts beating in rhythm with the story, understanding that a life measured by kindness and courage outshines one measured by flesh alone. The elder leans back, eyes glinting with pride, knowing that Amina's tale will live in every whisper, Every song and every lantern that floats above the water, a reminder that love is eternal. The elder lifts his staff high, its carved tip catching the last rays of the sun. A woman's worth is not in her womb but in her heart, he proclaims, eyes sweeping over the orphan children laughing and chasing one another. Look at them. Her love gave them life beyond birth. The villagers watch, silence filling the space between the echoes of their play, understanding dawning like the morning light. Standing dawning like the morning light. He shakes his head slowly, voice heavy with memory. Once people called her cursed. They spat at her name. A pause stretches, the weight of old judgments hanging in the air. But tell me, who now carries her spirit? Those who mocked her or those she fed? Murmurs ripple through the crowd, faces downcast, shame creeping where arrogance once stood. A young man rises, voice trembling with hope. Elder, did Tunda ever find peace? The elder smiles faintly, soft as a whispering wind. Yes, my son. For when a man forgives himself, even the ground under his feet grows soft again. His voice deepens, steady like the rhythm of the earth. What is lost in flesh can be restored in spirit. Heaven takes one gift to give another, he taps his chest. Amina's womb was sealed, but her heart birthed kindness that outlived kings. The children laugh again, their joy a living testament, and the villagers nod, finally seeing that true power rests not in blood alone, but in love that refuses to die. An old woman leans close, her voice barely more than a breath. Even the tree she planted blooms without rain. The elder nods, eyes glinting in the firelight. Because love waters what life cannot. A slow smile spreads across his face. That tree is her laughter. When it moves, her spirit speaks. The villagers glance toward the small tree, its leaves rustling though no wind stirs, and a quiet understanding settles over them. He turns to the younger women, gaze steady. Let no man or woman boast of what they have, he warns, voice firm as the ground beneath them. For pride blinds the eye, but humility opens the soul. Heads bow, the fire crackling like a heartbeat as the lesson sinks in. Children pass small clay lamps from hand to hand, flames dancing in the dark. These lights, he says, are the children of her spirit. They remind us, love does not die, it only changes its form. Raising his hands toward the moon, he whispers, Spirit of Amina, Mother of Light, rest well. Your story will never fade. The people echo softly, voices mingling with the night. Amina lives. The fire dies low, leaving only his final words lingering, soft as wind through dry grass. In Obanla, they still say, beware of judging the broken, for sometimes heaven hides its miracles in their pain.